You hear it all the time. India is one of the world's fastest growing economies, a place of just incredible innovation. But behind all those headlines of economic success, there's this huge paradox, a reality of constant struggle for millions of people. So let's try and figure out why. And that's really the central question we're going to tackle today. If the economy is growing so incredibly fast, why are so many people still just trying to get by? Is poverty actually decreasing, or are we just, changing the way we measure it? We're here to uncover the real story hiding behind the numbers. So, to understand this whole paradox, we have to start with how poverty is actually measured in the first place. In India, like in a lot of countries, the main tool they use is something called the poverty line. Now, think of this as the official minimum income someone needs to afford the absolute bare-bone basics for survival. But this brings up a really critical question, doesn't it? Is just surviving the same thing as actually living? The poverty line, it measures the bare minimum you need to not starve. But a real, meaningful life, well, that needs so much more. Things like a quality education, decent health care, and just the basic human dignity of not having to worry about where your next meal is coming from. Now, if you just look at the official data, say from places like the World Bank, the news looks amazing. The number of people in India living in what's called extreme poverty has actually fallen below 10%. And on paper, that is a huge, monumental achievement. But that number really doesn't tell the whole story, not even close. Just look at this chart. The number of people who are officially poor is that small bar. But then look at that much, much larger bar right next to it. That's the vulnerable or near poor. These are millions and millions of people living just a tiny bit above the poverty line. And for them, a single crisis, like a medical emergency or losing a job, can push them right back under. And, poverty isn't this one-size-fits-all thing. It looks totally different depending on where you are. As you can see here, out in the rural areas, it's often linked to farming and just a lack of steady jobs. But in the cities, it's a whole different story. You've got overcrowded slums, unstable work, and the absolutely crushing weight of high living costs. So this brings us to the big why. We see the numbers, we see the different ways it shows up, but what are the actual root causes that are stopping so many people from getting a piece of India's economic growth? Well, the roots of this problem go really, really deep. It all starts with a lack of stable, decent-paying jobs. Without that, and often without a quality education to begin with, families can get completely trapped in a cycle of poverty. Then you add in immense population pressure and a system where wealth just isn't being distributed equally, and you can start to see why the problem is so hard to shake. This quote really just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? The economic pie, it's getting bigger, for sure, but the slices are not being shared out equally. And that gap, that disparity, that's the real heart of India's poverty paradox. Now, to be fair, there are significant efforts being made to fix this. The Indian government has launched some massive welfare programs. We're talking free food schemes, a huge rural employment program called MGNREGA, which guarantees a certain number of workdays, and programs for housing. And these have helped millions. But there are still huge challenges in getting that help to everyone who needs it. And those challenges in reaching people bring us to the final and maybe the most crucial piece of this puzzle. A whole group of people the official numbers often miss entirely. And this is the idea of hidden poverty. This chart shows it so clearly. That huge slice of the pie, that's the hidden poor. This is the largest part of the population. These are people who earn just enough to stay above that official poverty line, so they don't get counted in the poverty stats. But they are totally trapped, working constantly just to survive, with no way to save or invest in their future. So even though they're not officially poor, they are stuck in a state of constant day-to-day struggle. So let's go back to our original question. Is poverty in India decreasing? Well, the simple answer is yes, but the full story is so much more complicated than that. A single number can never capture the reality of being vulnerable or the daily grind of the hidden poor. India is definitely rising, but millions of people are still waiting for their chance to rise with it. And maybe that's the ultimate takeaway here. The real challenge isn't just about moving people across some arbitrary line we've drawn. It's about building a system that creates genuine, equal opportunities for every single person to do more than just survive, but to actually live a life of dignity and purpose.